Oi Caveboy Chapter 8. In Chapter 7, Iggy managed to get hold of some of the stankwort, but unfortunately it turns out that what they thought was their friend, the no-neck Crack, actually has turned a bit nasty and got his army together and now told Iggy that he's got to show him the way to the Valley of the Urk. And it turns out that Crack can understand everything that Iggy's saying. Chapter 8. Get worse soon. Back in the Valley of Urk, two figures were climbing the hill on the way to the chief's cave. The older one was stocky and dark and strode ahead impatiently, carrying a sack tied at the neck. The younger trailed behind sulkily. "I thought you said he were dying," grumbled Snark. "He were," replied Borg grimly, "but now he's not." "Well, that's lucky, isn't it?" "Lucky? Lucky?" Borg halted and stared at his son. Has you got mud for brains? If he gets better, then he'll still be chief, won't he?" Snark rubbed his nose. "Oh, I thought you were going to be chief." "I were. But if that big bladderhead survives, then I won't, will I? That's why we has to make sure—" Borg broke off and glanced around before lowering his voice. "That's why we has to make sure he doesn't." "Doesn't what?" "Doesn't live, you bonehead." Snark still looked confused. "But I thought we was taking him a present." "So we are. Something he won't forget," said Borg with a nasty smile. Snark glanced at the sack which his dad was carrying well away from his body. It looked empty, but he knew it wasn't because Borg refused to let him look inside or even to go near it. "Can I give it to him?" he asked. "No," snapped Borg. "And remember, when we get there, what does you do?" "Nothing," said Snark. "And what does you say?" "Nothing." "Exactly. Let me do the talking and keep your blabber shut," said Borg. They'd reached Hammerhead's cave. It was easy to tell apart from the others because the entrance was framed by two great mammoth tusks forming an arch. A young, round-faced Urk called Oric stood guarding the entrance. He stood up straight when he saw them approach and gave the Urk salute, smiting himself twice on the forehead. "How goes the chief?" asked Borg. "We come to pay us respects." Oric looked at him a little uncomfortable. "Begging your pardon, but my orders are no visitors." Of course," said Borg. "But I'm an elder. You can let me through." "All the same," said Oric, "orders is orders." Borg studied the sky for a few moments. "Your name is Oric, isn't it?" he asked. "That's right, Oric." "You like games, Oric?" Oric's face brightened. "Oh yes, I do love a game." "Then here's one for you. You try counting to 10, and if you can, you win a prize." "Oh," said Oric. "I never played that one before. I got to count to 10? "That's it." Oric screwed up his face in concentration and began very slowly. 1, 2, 2. "Tell you what, we'll make it 5, said Borg generously. 5, all right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, said Borg. "That's it. 3, 4, 5. I done it," cried Oric excitedly. "Does I win the prize?" "Yes, you can go off duty." "Oh," Sure? But who'll be guarding the chief? We'll see to that. Don't worry. Off you go now. Oric headed down the hill, looking back to give him a cheery wave. Borg waved back. Dungwit, he muttered as they entered the cave. Hammerhead was asleep in a corner on a thick bed of furs. A stale odour of wood smoke and bat droppings filled the cave. Over the last few days, the chief had been battling the poison of his body. Sometimes he slept, and sometimes he called out in his sleep. Sometimes he had strange dreams. He dreamed he was a boy again in short furs. Then he dreamed he was a bunch of grapes. And then he woke up and found he was biting his hand. Right now he was dreaming there were people in his cave and their ugly faces were staring down at him. "For his breath is proper rank," said Snark, wrinkling his nose in disgust. "Look at him," sneered Borg. "High Chief of the Urks. Not so high and mighty now, is he?" It was true Hammerhead wasn't looking his best. His face was bathed in sweat. His wild red hair was matted and greasy, and there were flecks of dribble in his beard. He rolled his head and moaned something that sounded like, "Whoa." "He wants some war," said Snark. "Water, you fool." "Oh," said Snark. "Shall I fetch some?" Borg smiled unpleasantly. "No, we'll do better than that. Why don't we give him his present?" He picked up the sack and carefully set it down close to the chief's feet. Loosening the neck, he stepped back quickly. After a few seconds, the sack began to twitch with life. What is it?" whispered Snark. "I thought the chief might like a bit of company. Come on, Snark, time we were going." They backed away and crept out of the cave, Borg dragging his son by the arm. Hammerhead's eyes blinked open. With an effort he propped himself up on one elbow. A moment later he was sure he'd heard voices, but now the cave was empty and silent, apart from a faint sound like the rustling of dry leaves. He looked down at his feet, where the noise seemed to be coming from. Odd, he thought. His feet had never made noises before. A brown sack lay open on the ground, and something was burrowing its way out. Something black and shiny. It had 8 legs, a long, curved tail, and tiny eyes like a scorpion's. Come to think of it, it was a scorpion. The tail arched over its back, quivering with its venomous sting. If this is a dream, thought Hammerhead, now would be a good time to wake up. He tried to cry out, but his tongue felt like leather. The scorpion tickled as it crept slowly up his leg. He wanted to laugh, or scream, or shake it off, but he knew any sudden move would be fatal. Sweat dripped down his pink face and lodged in the forest of his beard. The scorpion had reached his thigh and was climbing higher and higher, scaling the mound of his belly. Hammerhead held his breath and kept very, very still. "Don't panic," he thought. "You've been in tighter spots than this."